Here are the 5 positions that Man United should be looking to reinforce in this summer transfer market. Now, one of the most important ones, obviously, is a new centre back. With Varane leaving, I do not trust Maguire to be our number one starting centre back, and I would like to see Lindelof as our backup option. But whoever's coming in honestly has got big shoes to fill. With Rafael Varane, you always know what you're going to get in a game. He's a stalwart and he's very, very consistent. He doesn't make mistakes. He's very comfortable. He's very experienced. He's very calm. His reading of the game is impeccable. That's why you don't often see him making ridiculous slide tackles, because his reading of the game is simply very, very good. And despite his injury issues, every time he stepped onto the pitch, we knew that he was going to have a comfortable game. And for a new centre back coming in, that's going to be very, very difficult to fill his shoes, not only in just helping the team with a modern way of playing, in terms of playing out the back and allowing us to play with a high line, but also being able to put in above average performances week in, week out. Now, when we had Varane, I was never really worried about any strikers causing him any trouble. And we need to say the same thing about the new centre back coming in. And the biggest name that everyone is talking about is Todibo from Nice. Now, I think he's got quite a similar profile to Varane, and I think that him and Martinez can adopt a very good stopper sweeper relationship, like we've seen with Varane and Martinez, or Varane and Ramos, or Ferdinand and Vinicius. However, there's always a risk when you're bringing a new player, certainly from another league, and especially a young player coming into Man United, about adapting. We've seen William Saliba do very well for Arsenal. Hopefully, if we sign him, he can do very well for us as well. But again, as I said, there's that risk of adapting to both Man United and the Premier League. I think he's probably going to be the most obvious option to go for in the summer window. Now, the next position I would consider signing is either a left back or a CDM, depending on whether Casemiro and Amrabat stays or leaves. Now, I think that the best option is to keep Casemiro and Amrabat for next season. I think we require Casemiro's experience and his winning mentality, because he's the only person, as I've said numerous times, that in that dressing room that has Champions Leagues and knows how to win league titles, etc. And Amrabat has some good experience to him, and I think that both of them can have a good relationship playing next to Mainu. So if both of them were to stay, maybe it'd be a good idea to look at possibly a left back, bearing in mind how injury hit we were in that area of the pitch this year. Now, Luke Shaw's always had niggles throughout his whole career, whereas Malacia last season just had one really, really long injury. So if Malacia could literally return to full fitness, and if Luke Shaw were to return to full fitness as well, I think we should be fine at left back. Because let's say even if Luke Shaw were to miss half the games, Malacia would usually have been available for all of them. So I'd only go out and sign a left back if we have budget left over after signing players from all these other different positions. But if we were to sell Casemiro and Amrabat, I would definitely be looking to sign someone like Polina, who is again a Premier League proven player and is just simply a destroyer in the middle of the park. Now, the next position I'd be looking to fill in is a midfielder who can play as a backup to Kobbie Mainoo. Now, I'm guessing that Ericsson is most likely going to leave this summer, and we definitely should be looking to move on Scott McTominay as well. Now, I personally would like to see Mainu as our starting centre mid next year, and there are a lot of names linked with Man United. The biggest of all being Frankie de Jong. Now, if we were to sign Frankie de Jong, that obviously means that we either have to play de Jong and Mainu in the midfield together, or we have to bench Kobbie Mainoo. Now, I don't think a Kobbie Mainoo, Frankie de Jong midfield would be ideal. I think we do need a bit more physicality and a bit more of a destroyer in the middle of the park. So a lot of these big name players that you can find in Serie A, La Liga, maybe even Ligue 1, are probably not the best idea. Now, the player that I would honestly be quite happy to see playing for us is Pascal Gross. Now, he's Premier League proven and he's very, very underrated. However, I don't think he'd be looking to leave Brighton anytime soon. His passing numbers and the amount of passes he completes per game is very, very high consistently. And I know I don't really like looking at stats, but passes completed per game is usually a good way of estimating how well a player can dictate a game. However, he has got defensive insecurities to his game. He's not the best when it comes to defending on the transition, maybe winning tackles and interceptions, etc. But he could be quite similar to Ericsson and maybe someone who's a bit more mobile and a bit more athletic than Ericsson was. And he's also quite versatile as well, I believe. And I think if he were to have fullback injuries and issues again, he can cover those positions. Now, honestly, the best player I think we could actually sign in this position would be Nemanja Matic, because he can play the CDM role and be back up to the CDM very well, and also play as a dictator of the game as well. But that's probably not going to happen because he's already said his goodbyes to the club. Now, the next position we should be looking to sign is a winger. And I think the winger that we need to sign depends on who is sold this summer. I think Sancho will most likely leave this summer. And if Rashford or Anthony goes, whoever goes, we need to fill in that position. Now, the main option that everyone is talking about if we were to sign a right winger is obviously Elise, and we all know that he's had a fantastic season this year. But we could also be looking to sign Pedro Neto as well. He's someone who's played for a bit longer than Elise in the Premier League. However, he has got quite a few injury issues attached to his name. But the good thing about Neto is that he can play on the right and the left. Now, if Rashford were to leave and we were to have to buy a left winger, the two I would probably be looking at are Eze and Anthony Gordon. Again, trying to look at players who are Premier League proven. I think Anthony Gordon looks like the more reliable option. Now, I've spoken with a QPR fan before who said that Eze could potentially have attitude problems in the fact that he might not always be motivated to play for the team. And I think we might have too many of those kind of personalities already in the club. So Anthony Gordon does look like a safer option, and also he seems like someone who's a bit more creative on the wing. Although I'm not going to lie, Eze would be probably a more entertaining watch. And if we were to go and sign a winger, we need to look at players who are more creative rather than goal scoring minded. I think this season it has been so clear, not just this season, for the last 5, 6 years, that our striker just simply gets no service in the team. We need to be looking for wingers who can create chances for a number nine. And that actually brings me on to our final position. With Martial leaving the club, Hoyland is our currently the only striker, the only out and out striker that we have. So we need to go out and buy a number nine, preferably someone who can play as a backup or is happy to alternate with Hoyland. And for me, the profile of striker that we should be going for is a false nine. We already have Hoyland as our target nine, who can maybe wait in the box for a header or also run in behind against a team with a high back line. But we need someone in certain games who can drop deep and collect the ball and link up the play and play 1-2s with our wingers who can then go into the box and maybe score goals or whatever. I think Hoyland knows how to link up the play well, but sometimes his technical ability isn't quite there. So I think the best thing for us to do is to go out and buy an out and out false nine. I think Memphis Depay is probably the player who suits that profile best. And currently he's playing a rotation role at Atletico Madrid, so I don't think he's going to be too difficult to sign from there. And I'm sure he'd be happy to play as a rotation option with Hoyland. We were looking at him in the last winter transfer window, not the current one, but the one we ended up signing Weghorst. So I think Memphis Depay could be a good option. The other one is Cunha. I think I've seen a couple reports that we were linked to him. He's Premier League proven. I think he's a fantastic player as well. So if we were to go out and sign either one of these two players, I think that would be a big win for us. Now, I don't know about either of their injury records. I'm guessing that they're both not too great, which could be an issue. But I think their style of play and their talent is something that can really, really benefit not just the team, but Hoyland himself as well.